A portion of this video is sponsored by Arrma.
It seems like manufacturers today just can't stop adding gears to cars. In just a few years, we've gone from 5 or 6 speeds being the standard to 8, 9, even 10 speed transmissions. Honda and GM, they're working on gearboxes that go up to 11 speed. I want to know, why do they keep adding more? Well, it turns out there's a couple good reasons why you might want them and a couple of reasons why you wouldn't. So today, we're going to figure it out. Let's go. Truckers with their 18-speed transmission. Hold my beer, sonny. Tick, tick!
Big thanks to Arrma for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Do you like speed? Do you like toughness? Do you wish you owned a badass monster truck but don't have the garage space to park it anywhere? Well, now you can. This is the Arrma RC Big Rock 4x4 monster truck RTR, which stands for Ready to Run. It comes fully assembled and was designed from the ground up by experts who understand the importance of speed, strength, and fun. The experts at Arrma gave it a stronger chassis with retained hinge pin plates. It features a 3-speed switch so you can cruise at either 50%, 75%, or 100% speed with a capacity of 50 plus miles per hour. That's fast as f. It's got Arrma toughness for big jumps and bashing, plus a street truck style to make you look good. I mean, imagine if Low Truck looked this badass. Freaking awesome. But unlike Low Truck, this is actually easy to maintain and super durable. Experience dirt bashing RC driving yourself by clicking the link below or head on over to horizonhobby.com/ArrmaTough today. Now, let's tear back into the show. Thanks to Arrma for sponsoring that portion of today's video.
I'm gonna get straight to the point. One of the reasons why the number of gears in new cars keep increasing is straightforward: fuel economy and performance. But this can't go on forever because extra gears create some pretty big problems. So to understand the benefits and drawbacks, we need to see why cars have gears in the first place. And that all starts with the sexiest part of every car, the engine, and especially its power curve. I got a bunch of power curves. It goes like this. When I do this, that's the backside of my butt. That's where I get all my power from. These cheeks, slap, slap. We often describe engines by their horsepower rating, but that's only peak power. Engines only make that at one particular engine speed, and that's usually close to the maximum RPMs. That's the rev limit or the red line. So if you have an engine with a peak power output of 325 horsepower and a red line of 6,000 RPM, it's only making maximum power somewhere around 5,200 to 5,800 RPM, depending on an engine. But this is a theoretical engine, so let's just say it makes it at 5,800 RPM. Now before and after that point, it's producing less, sometimes a lot less. At idle, at around 600 to 800 RPM, that might be making as little as 20 horsepower. Enough power for accessories like the alternator and air conditioner, but not much else. That's why if you want to try to accelerate at idle without adding any throttle, your car creeps forward slowly and maybe will even stall out. As engine speed increases, so does power output. But as power output increases, so does fuel consumption because you can't make power without it. Now let's consider what would happen if your car didn't have any gears at all. That would be a direct drive system like a kid's tricycle. Those have a 1-to-1 ratio between the drive system, that'd be little Jerry's legs on the pedals, and the driven wheel. For every rotation of the pedals, the wheel rotates one time. So if your car had no gears, it would do the same thing. For every full rotation of the engine's crankshaft, the wheels would rotate just one time. And there are situations where that could work just fine. In a car without gears, at an engine speed of 1,000 RPM, the wheels would also be rotating at 1,000 RPM. Assuming your car has pretty typical tires, say 25 inches in diameter, you'd be traveling at 75 miles per hour. So the 1-to-1 ratio of a direct drive could be good for highway cruising, but has a major low speed problem. At 5 miles per hour, your engine would be spinning at just 67 RPM. Engines need to maintain a minimum speed to have enough momentum to stay running. That minimum varies based on things like the weight and friction between internal parts, but 67 RPM is too slow for anything you'd find in a car. So you can solve that low speed problem by adding a reduction gear to the car. A reduction gear lets an input source, like the crankshaft, rotate faster than the output. The opposite is an overdrive gear, which lets the input rotate slower than the output. In that case, if we simply added a 15-to-1 reduction gear, then for every 15 rotations of the crank, the wheels would just rotate once. So at 5 miles per hour, the engine would be spinning at a much happier 1,000 RPM. but a single gear solution to low speed problem creates a high speed problem. With a 15-to-1 ratio at 70 miles per hour, the engine would need to spin at over 14,000 RPM, well past the rev limit for most cars. Motorcycles don't gotta worry about that though. You know, where are my motorcycle boys at? Yeah, leave a comment down below if you want more moto content. Also, hit that subscribe and like button. That lets us know we're doing good. Thank you. With a 15-to-1 ratio, the engine will reach 6,000 RPM at just 30 miles per. So you can see the problem here. Any gear ratio that lets the engine accelerate at low speeds inevitably leads to problems at high speeds. As vehicle speed increases, there's at some point where the engine speed goes beyond what it's capable of, and that's probably happened long before you've reached highway speeds. So what is the solution, Jer Bear? Tell me, I need the answer. Well, you add more gears. The most basic reason your car has multiple gears is because engines are limited by their idle speed and their rev limit. Engine and wheel rotation speeds need to vary if you want to travel at a normal range of vehicle speeds. So a transmission with a combination of reduction gears and overdrive gears makes it possible for you to drive at 5 miles an hour or 70 miles an hour. Or if you're badass, 150 miles an hour. Or if you're super badass, 200 miles an hour, as long as you're within the limits of the road. Stay safe, my friends. Even the earliest cars had more than one gear ratio available. The Model T was a 2-speed, and 2-speed transmissions were common up until the 1970s. But long before then, companies started adding gears. The 1927 Model A, 3 speeds, and a 3-speed transmission stuck around for almost 80 years up until the early 2000s. In drag racing, 3 speeds are still common, and those are capable of exceeding 150 miles per. So adding more gears isn't necessarily just about top speed. But the addition of extra gears does have a lot to do with performance, and in the 2000s, 6 speeds became common in performance cars. It's really only in the last decade or so that we've seen a widespread addition of gears. So are 6 gear ratios not enough? Well, looking at a specific example might explain why it might not be. Like many cars, the Catfish Camaro, built from 1998 to 2002, had a transmission that wasn't built by the manufacturer. It has a Borg-Warner T56, if you know, you know, which was also used in the Dodge Viper, used in Corvettes, Mustang Cobras, a lot of sick cars, but on top of that list is the old Catfish Camaro. Now in the Camaro, the 6th gear has a ratio of 0.5 to 1. That's an overdrive gear. So it multiplies the rotations of the input source, and that lets me cruise in the Camaro at a comfortable and fuel sipping 1300 RPM at 60 miles per. At that speed, its 25-inch tires are rotating at 800 RPM. Now you mathletes out there might be thinking your boy doesn't know what he's talking about. Shouldn't an engine spinning at 1300 RPM with an overdrive gear ratio mean the wheels are rotating faster than the crank? Well, the answer is no. Now I could tell you why, but I think you should tell me instead. Head on over to the Donut Underground Discord tonight, 7 p.m., and you can explain why the Camaro's engine is spinning at 1300 RPM at 60 miles per. 7 p.m. I'll be on for one whole long hour. Okay, I'll take your answers. Whoever gets it, I'll give you a shirt. Be ready. Now let's suppose that Nolan pulls up and he wants to race because, let's face it, he's trouble. I got a Mustang Eater though. That's the definition of what a Camaro is. I'm not worried. And because we're professional drivers on a closed course, don't try this at home, we go for it. At 1300 RPM, the Camaro is only making 40 or 50 horsepower. So I grab second. Pow! A reduction gear with a ratio of 1.78 to 1. The engine jumps to 4600 RPM. Horsepower gallops up to 300, just shy of the engine's peak. And I can accelerate all the way to 5600 RPM before the power starts to drop off before redline. I win, take the cash and the respect that I deserve, because my Camaro just gobbled up a little pony. That's what I eat every day. I eat ponies, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I got a sticker on the back of my car. It says My Little Pony Eater. Put it on a shirt. But let's rewind the tape a little and see what happens if I'm going 70 miles per hour instead of 60. In 6th gear at 70 miles per with that 0.5 to 1 ratio, the Camaro's engine is spinning at 1500 RPM. That increased engine speed means it's using a little bit more fuel, and that's one reason why manufacturers will add more gears. A 7th gear would be a ratio of 0.33 to 1 and would drop the engine speed to just 1000 RPM. That's a 30% decrease in engine speed, and that produces a corresponding, but not identical, decrease decrease in fuel consumption. So more gears means more time can be spent at lower RPMs, burning less fuel. But more gears can also mean better access to engine's peak power. Consider that race again, this time starting at 70 miles per hour. If I downshift into second, the engine is going to jump up to 5,400 RPM where it's already making maximum power. But I'll need to immediately upshift to avoid over revving. That shift takes time, slowing the car down, maybe enough that Nolan gets an advantage in a win. But your boy won't let that happen. So what if I downshift into third instead? Well, that's got a ratio of 1.3 to 1, and at 70 miles per, the engine will only be at 3,900 RPM. That'll put power at just 250 horses, well below the engine's 325 horsepower peak, a deficit that could also lose the race. So could more gears help this problem? Heck yeah, it could! So suppose there was a second and a half gear with a ratio of 1.55 to 1. 70 miles per hour, that would put the engine at 4,700 RPM or at about 300 horsepower and with plenty of room to rev before redline. So it sounds like changing from a 6-speed to an 8-speed in the old Catfish would be a win-win. Better fuel economy and more performance. But it's never that simple. Never that simple. Adding gears also has some downsides. Some of the problems are pretty obvious. Adding more gears means more parts and greater complexity inside the gearbox. Unless all those parts were made smaller, that means increased size and weight. And if they are made smaller, then they potentially are more fragile and can't handle the same amount of power. Of course, you could solve that by using stronger materials, but that increased costs. Freaking everything cool is expensive. One problem that's not as obvious is that extra gears create additional driveline power losses. That's power which doesn't make it to the wheels because it's used rotating the mass of the drivetrain. Stuff like the flywheel, drive shaft, and your axles. Any gears that aren't currently engaged are still spinning around, and that makes them dead weight, which takes power from the engine. And finally, there's the problem of shifting through all those gears. It takes time to move from one gear to the next. During those shifts, the car is actually decelerating because there's no power going to the wheels. So the performance benefit of having extra gears to keep the engine in just that right spot in its rev range could be canceled out, either by the extra rotating mass of those gears or if you simply have to spend too much time shifting through them. But your boy's a fast shifter, boy. In theory, if you had enough gears and never had to shift, you could always be in the sweet spot for maximum power or for maximum fuel economy. And that's really the goal of a CVT transmission. But in the real world, those have their own set of problems. While they have infinite variation in gear ratios, that comes at a cost of producing a lot of heat and being limited to how much power they can handle. Also, people say they feel weird. Been there. Engineers have to make choices no matter what the transmission type, typically needing to strike a balance between performance and fuel economy with just a few gear ratios to work with. In manual transmission cars, that's been 6 for a long time, with just a few 7 speeds in recent years. But then, sometimes, miraculous things happen. The ZF 8HP automatic transmission. It's the one that started it all. I'm a little bit old-fashioned, okay? I like my coffee black and I like my Pert Plus to burn my eyes. I also like a 3-speed manual transmission. Do you think people know Pert Plus used to burn your eyes? I don't know what that is. But making one of those transmissions with more than 6 gears is susceptible to all the problems I just mentioned. Size, rotating mass, and shift speed especially. Automatics, on the other hand, they can be engineered with really clever workarounds because they can make more speeds, more gear ratios, with fewer actual gears. By doing that, the 8HP transmission built by German company ZF really launched the more speeds with fewer gears trend all the way back in 2008. And the ZF8 has been used in a huge number of cars, everything from relatively ordinary Dodge Chargers and BMW sedans to the Lamborghini Urus and Aston Martin DBS. So what makes this gearbox so special? Like many automatic transmissions, it uses planetary gears. We're going around the world. Those consist of a sun gear surrounded by planet gears and an outer ring gear. The ZF has just 4 of these planetary gear sets, but by mixing and matching the sun and ring gears, reusing them to make different ratios, the ZF manages to make 8 total ratios with just 4 gear sets. Fewer gear sets means fewer gears sitting around doing nothing, so less rotational mass. It also means fewer parts that can break, decrease total size and mass, and the gears don't have to move as far to complete gear changes. Fewer parts also means it's cheaper. you have less stuff. Old school automatics with ordinary gears had to shift sequentially through each of their gears, but the ZF design lets it jump straight between certain gears from 8th to 2nd, for example. And because all of this is computer controlled, shifts happen in just 200 milliseconds. Far faster than a human. I don't know, this is pretty fast. I just went through 6 gears right there. Nailed it. The ZF8 has been installed in over 3.5 million cars, proving that transmissions with lots of gears can work. ZF followed suit with a 9-speed. Ford and GM, they joined forces. Me and Nolan, one Camaro Mustang. It'll never happen. It did happen. And they built a 10-speed transmission together. And now, Honda and GM are working on an 11-speed. GM didn't like working with Ford. They're like, forget you, man. We're gonna go work with the Honda guys. And Ford was like, you freaking loved it. You loved it. And you're leaving and it's your loss. Your loss, baby. But all of those are being built for mass production and plan to be sold in the millions. But what if money was no object? Fuel economy didn't matter and performance was your only goal. Well, then you could do something really special, like what Koenigsegg has done with their Lightspeed. A 9-speed, 7-clutch transmission. Like the ZF, Koenigsegg uses a few gear sets, 6 in total, in combination with each other to create 9 different ratios. And because each gear set has its own clutch, the Lightspeed transmission can jump from any gear to any other gear almost instantaneously. It just takes 2 milliseconds to complete a gear change. Finally, because it's not based on an automatic transmission with a liquid-filled torque converter, power delivery to the wheels is near instantaneous as well. It's an engineering marvel. If you want, maybe we should do a whole episode on how it works. Let us know in the comments. But with plans to build just 125 cars and at a price of $3 million, don't expect that technology to trickle down to the rest of us anytime soon. So is the adding of gears ever going to stop? 11 might not be the transmission's final form, but there are 2 reasons why you won't see manufacturers, apart from maybe Koenigsegg, adding gears forever. First, there's a point where that adding efficiency from a design like the ZF8s, with its fewer components and faster shift, it'll peak, like you in high school. Now when that happens, adding just 1 more gear will start to make things less efficient and slower, just like it did with older transmission designs. But the biggest issue is the electric future. Because they don't have power curves, EVs simply don't need as many gear ratios as internal combustion engines. Teslas get it done with just a single speed, relying instead of the engine's ability to deliver power from 0 RPM to as much as 20,000 RPM. As internal combustion goes away, gearboxes with almost a dozen ratios simply become obsolete. You know, whenever we talk about internal combustions leaving us, we never think about the transmissions either. And I just want to say, I'm going to miss the transmissions as well. Because they were important too. You don't know what you got until it's gone. Okay, that was enough of that.
I was just working on my old hog here, and you know what I realized? We just hit 6 million subscribers, dudes! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6! And just like with every major milestone that we have here at Donut, we're gonna release a limited edition 6 million sub sticker so that you can show everybody that you were part of the crew when we hit this number. This is like one of my favorite designs that we've done so far. I think it's super sick. It's only available for a very limited time. Go get yours today at donutmedia.com. And again, thank you guys so much. This is way bigger than we ever thought it could be. We love you all. I love you.
Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of B2B. If you want to see us break down a particular transmission, like the one that Koenigsegg has, let us know. I'd be really interested in nerding out if you guys like these types of videos. Let us know. Hit that like button. That really helps us out. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. Hit that little bell over there that lets you get notified whenever we post new stuff. We're always posting new videos. If you're not part of the Discord, hit the join button below. I'm gonna be on the Discord tonight, 7 p.m. I'll be on there. You can personally talk to me. We're a meme page now. Follow us on Instagram at Donut Media. Follow me at Jeremiah Burton. Until next week, bye for now.